Greetings. I am Dathan Tennyson, MBA candidate from West Palm Beach, Florida. And today we're discussing the impact of contextual and structural variables on the organizational structure. So let's just get into it. So how contextual and structural variables impact organizational structure. You see here that there's contextual variables and structural variables. The objective of this presentation is to explain how contextual and structural variables impact organizational structure, right? We'll cover the definition of these variables, key examples, and their impact on organizational structure, and conclude with a summary. So let's get into it. So contextual variables, the external and internal factors influencing organizational structure, right? With that being said, examples there, environmental, strategy, technology, size, and culture. Each of these factors play a significant role in determining the optimal structure for an organization, right? That just, goes without being said, right? So the environmental factors, right? Environmental factors, the internal characteristics that define an organization structure and influence how it operates, right? These factors dictate how flexible or rigid an organization structure needs to be, right? They include market conditions, regulatory requirements, and competition. And for example, a dynamic and uncertain environment might require a more flexible and adaptive organizational structure. And the examples are centralization, formalization, complexity, and specialization. And here you'll see the strategic factors, and they involve the organization's goals and objectives. The structure of an organization should align with its strategic objectives. So like as said before, the structure of an organization should align with its strategic objectives. If my goal is to foster innovation, then I'm not going to look for a networking structure because all they're doing is focusing on outsourcing, right? That's just an example. For instance, differentiation strategy might necessitate necessitate a more decentralized structure to foster creativity and innovation, right? As I said before. So moving on to technological factors, right? They refer to the type and complexity of technology used within an organization, right? Advanced and complex technologies might require specialized specialized departments, and more formalized procedures, right? This ensures that the organization can effectively manage and utilize its technology resources. Moving on to organizational size and culture, right? So the size of organization impacts its structure. Larger organizations tend to have more complex structures with multiple layers of hierarchy, right? You'll see here that the influence of size and culture on structure is important, right? For example, organizational culture, which includes shared values and norms, also influences structure, right? For example, a culture that values autonomy and empowerment may lead to a more decentralized structure, right? Because you're having people make their own decisions, right? Automation is like autonomy. These people are making their own decisions, and they're having to, uh, uh, you know, supervise different machines and things of that nature. Uh, it leads to things being more decentralized. Uh, and moving on to structural variables, right? The internal characteristics defining an organization's structure: centralization, formalization, complexity, and specialization. Right? Uh, each of these variables play a significant role in shaping the organization structure. Right? So for centralization and formalization, the degrees of decision-making authority and procedural documentation, right? It refers to concentration of decision-making at higher levels of the organization, right? So centralization um, in a highly centralized organization, most decisions are made by top management. So CEOs, COOs, CFOs, people in executive positions, right? Um, formalization is made up by top. Formalization is the extent to which procedures and instructions are documented and standardized. And high formalization means more rigid and defined processes, while low formalization means more room for flexibility and discretion. Uh, so moving on to complexity and specialization. It involves the number, complexity involves the number of different functions, divisions, and task divisions, and hierarchy within an organization, right? Um, so the more complex it is, the more functions, divisions, and hierarchies you're gonna have just off it being more complex, bigger, more size. It just naturally is gonna have more complexity to it because of how it needs to run. Because the bigger something is, the bigger an organization is, the harder it is going to be able to run. And that's where the bigger it is, the less simple it's going to be just off rip. Higher complexity indicates a more intricate and multifaceted structure, right? As said, and specialization refers to the degree to which tasks are divided into separate roles and functions, right? So if you specialize in something, if you specialize in accounting, you're going to be an accountant, right? If you specialize in supply chain management, you're going to manage where supplies are going and where they're coming from, and how you're taking inventory and things of that nature. Um, and high specialization means that individuals or units perform narrowly defined tasks, right? While low specialization involves broader, more varied responsibilities, right? So the more specialized you are, the more narrow, the more focused your assignments are going to be. You're focused on as an accountant, specifically things having to do with accounting. But let's say you're more so you're a better financial accountant, right? Or you're a better managerial accountant, right? You're focused more on credits and debits, or as a managerial accountant, you're more focused on more overhead or things like that, right? Um, so now we'll take a look on the impact on organizational structure, adaptability, efficiency, innovation, and coordination and control. Right, the interplay between contextual and structural variable significantly impacts organizational structure. Right. For example, organizations in highly dynamic environments might adopt a more decentralized or less formalized structure to remain flexible and responsive to changes, as said before. Um, Conversely, in stable environments, a more centralized and formalized structure can enhance efficiency and control, ensuring consistent performance and quality. Right? Um, a structure with low formalization and high decentralization can foster innovation by empowering employees and encouraging creative problem solving. And then high complexity and specialization necessitate robust coordination mechanisms to integrate various functions and ensure alignment with organizational goals, right? Um, and then you'll see here, just to summarize it all, um, contextual variables such as environment, strategy, tech size, and cultural influence uh, in organization structure, right? Structural variables like centralization, formalization, complexity, and specialization define the internal setup, right? Um, the interplay between these variables shape organizations' adaptability, efficiency, innovation, and coordination. And it's essential for organizations to align their structure with their strategic objectives to achieve the best performance they can achieve. Thank you.